we are not leaving anything on the table. Matter of fact, we're building our own table. All right. We don't just have a seat at the table. We are building our own table.
When adversity came, I could have fell apart, but I chose instead to follow my heart. When adversity comes, I will never run. I will adjust, adapt, and overcome. Vision.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to your one-stop shop for everything empowerment. I am your host, Tariq Williams, and not only I am Vision of Hope, but we are Vision of Hope. And this is your place for everything empowerment. Let's get into the podcast today. So, you all have been here before, but if you have not been here before, one, thank you for being here. We welcome you. We're happy that you're here. Hopefully you're here for empowerment, because the secret is we do that here. And we also don't do it incomplete. That might come up later. Besides the point, nevertheless, welcome everyone. Like, subscribe, rate 5 stars on all podcasting platforms, comment, etc., etc. Let's get into it. Thank you for being here. And so we want to feel empowered. And in this video, we're getting back to language. We really appreciate, respect, and recognize the power of language here on the podcast. And so let's think about this for a second. We're talking about the power of language. And so 3 words, count them. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. It's probably more licks than that to get to the center of the Tootsie Pop. Nevertheless. So what happens is 3 keywords you're probably not thinking about that you need to think about when it comes to achieving anything you want in your life. And for extra credit, I got 1 word that you forget about, that is kind of a secret, a word that you can't forget, that is essential, kind of a little bit of a secret, something that we all forget that we need to understand when it comes to achieving your goals. So I got 3 keywords, and then we got the 1 that is a little bit of a secret, but it's the 1 word that we definitely cannot forget, that we often do. So let's get started. So once again, we're talking about language. We're talking about keywords you may or may not be thinking about when it comes to achieving anything you want in your life. The first word is emotion. That's not what you're thinking, huh? You weren't thinking I was going to talk about emotion. Emotional, your emotions, those types of things, okay? So obviously there's different types of emotions that come into play when we're talking about achieving anything you want in your entire life, okay? And so the first part of emotion is recognizing the fact that you gotta have your emotions in check. I was talking to a real estate agent, all right? And he was telling me about how he kind of grades his success, okay? And so what he does is he takes the house that he sold, let's say for over $1 million, okay, the biggest sell that he had, all right? And then he takes the lowest sell that he had, and he throws those out. Get out of here. Get out! Okay, he throws those out, and then he starts factoring in everything in the middle, because then it really helps you put things into perspective to really think about exactly where your median is, where you actually are, because things are never as bad or as good as they may or may seem. And so we need to recognize that if you throw out the best or whatever the highest sell was and the lowest, and you start really looking at where you're at and like kind of averaging and getting the median of those things, then you start to think about, okay, this is really where I'm at. I bring up that example again to talk about your emotions. Your emotions they can really make you think about things and some some hyperbole, okay? But also maybe too low or too high, etc. So having them in check. Now, the flip side of the emotion conversation is that your emotions are going to drive what it is you're actually wanting to achieve. Okay. So when I say they're going to drive exactly what you're going to achieve, if you're feeling great that day, you're going to feel great and then you're going to go out and do whatever it is. And if you're feeling sad, we can't let our sadness take over. If you got something you want, you got to get out there and get it. Okay. You have to really put your emotions in a place where no matter what, it drives you. I'm feeling good. I'm still pushing. I'm feeling bad. I'm still pushing. Okay. Or really think about what it is you need to figure out or do or need to do or a part of the equation to really put into perspective that your emotions are important, but make sure that if it's a negative emotion or something that is putting you down, that you don't let that emotion consume you. Let your emotions build you up and help you drive to where you want to go next. So now emotions helping us set the tone for achieving anything we want to do in our life, okay? You always hear people talk about the fact that they wear their heart on their sleeve, right? That's a common phrase. And so we want our emotions to work for us, not against us. The second word we're going to get into is the word perseverance. Now, perseverance speaks to persistence, okay? Continuing to work through any obstacles, specifically obstacles, or whatever the case may be, is working through some type of difficulty, but just getting through it. Because perseverance really speaks to the ability that we're getting through it. Okay. Perseverance is we're getting through it and we're going to be persistent. Oftentimes people talk about the word insanity. And, you know, words can have different connotations that may be negative or positive, whatever the case may be is. But the fact is, when they talk about insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, you know, what is the difference if we call that persistence? Because when you talk, excuse me, not persistence, talking about perseverance being a part of persistence. And so being persistent, but that perseverance speaks to the fact that you're going to get through it. Okay. If it's financial, if it's whatever the case, any obstacle, whatever the case may be is. And so, one of the things I think about is so a little bit about me. Okay. So I was in the marching band in college and in high school. And in college, I used to dread the humidity and the 90, 100-degree weather during band camp. Okay. That one time at band camp, it was hot. But anyways, we had to work through and persevere. And the thing is, I had no doubt in my mind. The idea of us not putting on a great show for our marching band show didn't even compute to me. I knew that it was going to be great. Perseverance was just something that was essential. We knew that it was going to happen. We knew that we were going to work through whatever it was to make it happen. Like, it was one of those just necessary things that we had to be persistent and persevere through and get to our goal. Okay. So far we have our emotions. And our emotions are assisting us, they're empowering us, they're driving us through, they're not consuming us. Those negative emotions aren't consuming us, okay? They're driving us in the car speaking of, driving cars and things that aren't real people driving cars, Waymo is a thing that's popping up and it has these self-driving cars. Pretty interesting, actually. I haven't driven in one yet. Something I'd like to do. But can you believe it? Can you imagine being in a vehicle and there's nobody in the driver's seat? Technology. Besides the point, nevertheless, I completely digress. So perseverance then are driving us through that perseverance and getting through whatever it is we want to accomplish or do. Once again, the three words that are going to tell us that we can achieve anything. Now we got the third word coming up. And once again, we got the last word that is really going to the word that we forget, the word that isn't necessarily, it's in a different category than these three. Okay, in a different category than these three. So 3 is prosperity. Now, prosperity is an interesting word. Okay, when we think of the word prosperity, we are thinking about success, right? We're thinking about, the moments where we're feeling elated about our successes. We're feeling great. We're imagining the feeling. I got the feeling we're getting when it comes to being successful. And yes, I'm not saying we're thinking about success. We are, when we're talking about prosperity, we are feeling the success. Okay. I'm not thinking about this. Okay. This is a feeling, because when we're talking about prosperity, all right, when we're talking about prosperity, we are talking about prospering and feeling something that's going to take us to greater heights. And that's why I wanted to use the word prosperity, because it speaks on the fact of getting to greater heights. As soon as you think that you've gotten to where you think it's over and you've reached that top of the mountain, you think about that prosperity. And there's something about the word prosperity that speaks to more. That speaks to more. Now, I'm a big quotation person. If I'm a big word person, that means I like quotations. And so, favorite quote: potential is only unachieved greatness. Okay? Potential is only unachieved greatness. And so when we're talking about the word prosperity, okay, we are not leaving anything on the table. Matter of fact, we're building our own table. All right. We don't just have a seat at the table. We are building our own table to then build more, to set the table for the future, for our friends, family, etc. Okay. When we're talking about prosperity, we're talking about upward trajectory and always wanting more for yourself. The thing is, and that's why I'm using the words that I'm using, because I really wanted you to get out of only 3 words, but I really wanted you to understand what it really means to have overwhelming, comfortable success to achieve anything it is you want to achieve. So let's recap: emotion, perseverance, prosperity. Now, when we're talking about the word that we often forget, I'm putting the 3 words: emotion, perseverance, and prosperity. Okay. I'm putting those here. And then we're going to put another word over here. Okay. Now, don't forget about these 3. Don't forget about these 3. All right. But what I want us to realize is that even though we have those 3 words and we're working through the situations, we're working through the obstacles, we're staying focused on what it is we want to do, because our emotions are in a place that we can do that. and we're persevering and we're continuing to think in a prosperous manner, okay, there's one word here that I have to add that's separate than the other three. But if I don't talk about this word, it's incomplete. And you know what it is here? You know what we're about? We're about empowerment. But not only that, we're not about incomplete. We don't do incomplete here. If you're looking for incomplete, there's a lot of other people you can listen to. But we want to be complete here. All right. Not throwing shade. I love everybody who makes content. Y'all great. But anyways, the word that we need to recognize and not forget when it comes to being focused and everything like that is the word release. Now, let me help you understand, because release is very important to the equation. And if we don't find a way to mix it in with what we're talking about here, it's going to be incomplete and it's not going to empower us to achieve anything we want in our lives. So when we're talking about release, let me explain to you all how this word came up for me the other day. So I was on the First Sip podcast, and on the First Sip podcast with Dikembe Smith and Albert Linares, they were talking. Every episode, it's really cool. I suggest you all take a listen. On all, they're on all podcasting platforms, and so every episode at the end of their show, they ask you if you have a content rec. And so when they say content rec, they're basically saying that any type of content that you're recommending that anyone watch, listen, read, etc., etc. Okay. And when I was on their podcast, they asked me that question. And I said the show that I was watching pretty consistently, Bel Air, which is a show on Peacock. It's like the Fresh Prince of Bel Air, but more of a drama, not a comedy, but it's talking about really the drama and things about why certain things happened in Will Smith's life in the show. And it's a really interesting show. With that being said, but I said, let me think a bit more, come back to me. And so when they brought it back around to me, they asked me again if I had any content recs. And what I said was, right now, I'm not really taking in a lot of content. I'm actually in a place where I'm creating a lot right now and even writing a lot right now. Stay tuned for that. Big things are coming up, big things are happening. So I'm writing a lot these days. But the word that came to my mind was the word release. When I've been taking in content these days, I've been more focused on a release that makes me relax, a release that makes me recognize that things aren't too bad, things aren't too great, letting me relax. We don't often recognize the fact that we need a release in our lives. Sometimes we need alone time. Sometimes we need the opportunity to watch something on television that doesn't matter, or music that's going to put us in a different place to release some endorphins, or whatever the case may be is. We don't often find that space to just release, relax, recover. Okay. And so the word release is very important. And when it comes to your emotions, when it comes to perseverance, when it comes to prosperity, when it comes to all those things, you might not be that 100% of the time. And so to be able to be at your best for all three of those, you have to find the space where you can release. When you can have that release, where you can have that relaxation to become your best emotional self, when you become your best prosperity self, when you become your best perseverance self. Okay, it's an equation. I can't stress this enough. We can't forget about these three things, but we also can't forget about this one, because the fact is we recognize that this isn't one size fits all. It's not. Okay, think of a snapback. All right, a snapback hat. You got to clip it in different places to recognize to get the right fit that you're looking for. Okay. It's not one size fits all. And so find that release, figure out what it is you got to do for you on a daily basis so you can be your best self in all the other areas and continue moving forward and achieve anything that you want in your life because it's possible. Thank you all so much for listening. And we are visionofhope.com for coaching. Big things happening, big things continuing, and we're going to keep on making it happen. We're not trying to grow, we are growing. Not only I am Vision of Hope, but we are Vision of Hope.
When adversity came, I could have fell apart, but I chose instead to follow my heart. When adversity comes, I will never run, I will adjust, adapt, and overcome. Vision.